Hello everyone, Master Gari here, and today we'll be looking at the game 9 of the World Championship between Carlsen Magnus and Vishwanathan Anand. The game just finished from where I was, so I will be doing a really quick review with some detailed analysis. Okay, let's start. So Carlsen started off with e4 and Anand replied e5. So let me give you some context about this match right now. Carlsen is currently leading the World Championship by 1 point, so I think he doesn't mind going into a Berlin defense. And Anand doesn't mind either because he's black, so he can try to win tomorrow with white. So both players are okay with the draw, but Carlton's okay with playing safe. So the game goes like this: knight f6. And remember the first game, game 3, I believe, or that Carlsen won, game 2, he played d3, keeping most of the piece on the board. But this game he decides to go into the Berlin. And the Berlin variation goes like this: white play castles, knight takes e4, and this is the start of the variation. Now, you might think knight takes e4 is a pretty daring move because opening up the king side, center, while your king is in the middle seems a little risky. But current theory has proved that black's position is completely fine. For example, rook e1, you have knight d6, a really nice move, attacking the bishop. And now if white takes the pawn, black can simply take the knight or play bishop e7. And now the bishop's still attacked, by the way. So bishop f1, knight takes e5, rook takes e5, castles. And as you can see, both players are pretty underdeveloped, and black is not in any real danger. Let's see what the current theory suggests. d4, bishop f6, a really nice move, kicking the rook out. Rook e1. And now as you can see, black's problem is this bishop development, and black has found a really nice way to finish the development with knight f5, a forcing move, attacking the pawn on d4, where white replies with c3 usually. And now black plays nice move d5, gain the center, opening the bishop, and all he has to do is now bring out the bishop to finish development, right? So white plays bishop c4, for example, bishop f4, c6, knight d2, and now even better, people have found, delved even deeper and found move knight h4 here. Now for bishop d3, bishop f5, you can see black has solved all his problems. He can play that, and rook f8, and the game is pretty much equal. So that's why people don't play rook e1 anymore, because knight can jump back to d6 and attack the bishop. And remember, black just grabbed a pawn. Okay, so current theory says white should play d4 here because it attacks the pawn. And now black has to think a little bit. Should he take here? That would be a huge mistake because, as you can see, rook e1 isn't really good for black. d5, try and hold on. Now queen takes d4, utilizing this pin. As you can see, now black has problems defending this knight and this pawn, and also developing his bishop, and therefore with his king. So this wouldn't be good if I don't play this. That would be a pretty basic mistake. So going back to the position, and I'll play the normal move, knight d6, and now bishop's attacked, so Carlsen takes, d takes c6, and Carlsen gets the pawn back that he lost on e4, so he gets the pawn back. So this is the start of the Berlin defense. After queen takes d8, queen takes d8. So as you can see, black won a pawn in the beginning, and then white won it back through a series of forcing moves. And now we have a few imbalances. First imbalance is the pawn structure. We got 4 pawns on the king side versus 3. So white has a king side majority here. That's good. However, what's black's compensation here? Well, black has the 2 bishops. Really good compensation. Mind you, another disadvantage for black is these 3 pawns. Excuse me. So, as I was saying, Black has a disadvantage here with the 4 pawns, double pawns. But this can also be a safe haven for the king in the future. And as I mentioned before, double bishops are there. Okay, so this endgame is considered fairly equal nowadays, and everyone is playing it, all the top grandmasters. And here, Carlsen played ace-3. So White's plan is simple. He has to develop his pieces and start rolling these pawns, and create a pass pawn in the future after neutralizing all of Black's pieces. If he can get the 2 bishops somehow with the knight, exchange the knight for the bishop, that would be even great. And here, Carlsen's idea is to play g4 in the future at the right time to kick out this knight. And he's also delaying the development of the knight here to see if it goes here or here. Okay, so here Anand played king e8 here. Interesting move. Because he's stepping out of all these checks. That can come in, check there, bishop there. That might be kind of risky because this could be mate. So Black makes a pretty useful move here. Now Carlsen plays knight c3. Now you might be asking me why not go ahead with the plan at g4. Remember I said White has to wait till the right moment, and the right moment is not now, because here Black has the square still, so he can go back knight e7, and suddenly this might be bad because now Black has a pawn breakthrough, and the bishop comes alive, the rook comes alive. This is not good. Now the reason the only moment White will play g4 is actually when the bishop goes to e7, and as you will see, because the knight can't go back. So that's something I just came up with recently when I was looking at this game. So knight c3 was played, waiting for Black to play bishop e7. So here Anand played h5 actually. Now let's see what happens for bishop e7, shall we? g4. And now the knight can't go back there anymore. Can't go there. Cannot go there. That would be terrible square, right? So the only move is knight h4. And now we can just take. The theory goes to rook g1. And now as you can see, White has this nice little pawn roller here. So Black can try to fight on with bishop e1, king g2, h5 maybe. But White can first consolidate with f3, and then bring his bishop out. Maybe double his rooks, maybe reroute his knight like that if the bishop comes to e6. A lot of plans. So this is fairly comfortable for White, but Black still should be able to hold with accurate play. But anyway, Anand didn't want to allow all this nonsense, so he played h5. And Carlsen played knight e2. Remember, 2 games ago, this same position occurred, and Carlsen played bishop f4. And the game went bishop e7, rook d1, bishop e6, knight g5, trying to get that bishop. But Anand found a good counterplay with the rook h6, because he can come to e6 and attack the pawn. So Carlsen didn't take the bishop, but then Anand took the bishop instead and tried to get counterplay over here. And after a few more moves, he actually ended up winning a pawn and some counterplay. So it didn't go too well for Carlsen. So he decides to be the first one to deviate by playing knight e2. The idea is to go maybe to f4 or d4, and you have a pawn breakthrough with e6. Also, it's waiting to see what Black does actually, and keeping all the options open. So bishop e6 could be reacted by knight f4, knight d4, and White has some play. So Anand finds a different plan, b6. I believe Carlsen was slightly surprised because I was watching this. Anand took only 5 minutes, and Carlsen already took 15. And the idea for Black is to activate his bishop. And it actually goes deeper than that, as I will explain. So Carlsen played rook d1, putting the rook on an open diagonal, and also unpinning the knight in case it comes to a6. Now I can pretty much predict properly that, I'm guaranteeing this actually, that Carlsen expected bishop b7. And then he probably thought he'll play knight e4, takes. Now if Black tries to play c5, then I can go knight f5, and then it's kind of uncomfortable for, or maybe even knight d5 actually, knight b5 actually. So kind of uncomfortable because this knight is really powerful. So this knight was Good idea. And then maybe black can try to play rook d8, but wait. Bishop to g5. Attacking the rook is not so easy. Maybe he can play rook d7, but then e6 could happen for rook d7. But rook d5, c4, Maybe now knight f5 even. So as you can see, a lot of play for white here. This is what Carlsen wanted. But Anand, prepared at home, much better prepared than Carlsen, as this whole world championship has taught us. He played bishop to a6, attacking the knight first. Now, his whole idea is for white to commit his knight to either d4 or f4, and then black will react accordingly. Let's look at, Carlsen played a knight f4 here after a long thought. But let's look at the alternative, knight d4. Why doesn't it work here? Or why doesn't it work as well as the other variation? So, after knight takes d4, knight takes d4. Remember in the other line, the bishop was on b7. In this line, the bishop's on a6, and we can already utilize this by playing c5. And now, knight f5. By the way, knight c6 would be bad because of bishop b7. The knight is pretty trapped there. Okay, so knight f5, like in the last variation, the difference is that the bishop's on a6 instead of b7. And now he has this move that I just cooked up. This, I'm predicting this is an analysis here. Bishop to e2. Now, to give you some context, rook d8 might have been what normal people play, but then bishop g5, attacking the rook. Rook takes, as you can see, white's recaptured with the rook and then has a mating attack. Not too good for black here. But, so why bishop e2? The idea is to disrupt the rook. So it can't go here, 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 or here. And if it goes to d5, I think, black can annoy the rook again. So the only move to play is rook d2. But now, this bishop can't come out, and so does the rook. And black will simply go back to c4. And suddenly, rook d8 cannot be met with bishop g5 anymore, because it's blocked. Crazy, right? Now let's say a move like b3. Bishop e6, knight e3, rook d8. Now suddenly, as you can see, black is completely fine. Play might go like this, and then either black can play safely with g6 and bishop h6, having good game, or he can even be aggressive and play g5. Excuse me, g5, and then who knows, maybe even g4. So I'm pretty much guessing this was on the preparation. Very nice preparation by Anand, and kind of giving away my secrets here, but it's for you guys. So it's a really nice idea that I want to share. Bishop e2 and bishop c4. Okay, so Carlsen was basically surprised here, and he played knight f4 because he didn't want to go into all the preparation. And now I'm guessing he was expecting bishop e7 here and e6 with some pressure, maybe, because maybe in the future this pawn or this pawn can get attacked. Not entirely sure, but Anand even surprised him again with bishop to b7 now. So basically the difference is that now the bishop is blocked, as we know. So bishop went to a6, knight went to f4, and now the bishop went back to b7. And it's really mysterious, but now the knight can't go to d4 anymore, right? And this knight's prospects are very limited. It can't go there or there. Very limited prospects. All these squares are danger zones. So, and it blocks the bishop, which in turn blocks the rook. And bishop d2 is not good because it also blocks the rook. So, really interesting. So Carlsen pretty much gave up here. He just played e6 because he has no other way to develop his pieces properly. He can't go to g5 with the bishop. I mean, let me get rid of all these arrows first. He can't go to g5. The only play he has is b3, but that's really slow. I mean, I'm guessing Carlsen just can play either bishop e7 and then rook d8 or something. He has plenty of options. Or c5, or he has plenty of options here. This is really slow and not a good diagonal for the bishop. So, Carlsen played e6. And now, Anand said after the match that he saw e6 before, and the right move for e6 is bishop d6. That brings back to my other point. Here, if Anand played bishop e7, e6, I'm guessing that the bishop is well placed on b7 more than a6. So, and the bishop will go to d6 anyway. So, that's why he played bishop b7 first, e6, and now bishop d6. So the bishop is supporting the pawn, and maybe play c5 in the future. And this pawn breakthrough is not really helping white that much. After e takes, king takes, knight g5 check. It looks scary, but king f6, attacking the knight. And white simply does not have enough forces to start an attack. So Carlsen just decided to call that day with check, 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 to everyone's surprise. Now, could Anand have played on, is the question. Well, if he makes another move, the only other move that's good is probably king g8, but that's not, I wouldn't consider that a good move because white can just go knight e6, and this is kind of uncomfortable. So Anand doesn't want to lose. Even though he's trailing by a point, he knows better than to go into a worse endgame against Carlsen. So he's going to try tomorrow as white, and hopefully we'll see a really good game and not a draw. Okay, so short game, but there were a lot of hidden ideas in here, and I hope you guys learned a lot, and hopefully I can see you in the next game. Thank you. Take care. Bye.